There's nothing off limits.
Okay, well, if there is anything, just let us know. We'll cut
There's
it out.
nothing.
Okay, if something happens.
In fact, the more off limits, the better.
Nice.
Okay.
All right, here we go. This is TGE, the podcast, episode 41 or 42. We're going to find out, depending on how things are going. There might be another episode in front of it. It's a very special episode because today we are having a special guest. It's Roger Nygard.
More of an interloper, I think.
There we go. And I'm also here with Tyler.
Hello, Sven, and thank you to everyone for listening to the show. We appreciate you telling your friends about it. We enjoy the growing listens every week, and if you like what you're hearing, subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you're listening to podcasts.
We're all sitting in my bay, and we're really excited to be having this podcast and talk a little bit about Roger's path and...
I'm having bay jealousy. I love this. This is a really nice setup you got here.
Oh, nice. Yeah. No.
In the guest house, to have your own editing space. It's great.
I want to change the color up a little bit. The yellow doesn't work for like YouTube videos. I thought it's a real nice warm color, but now it's...
That you can change. That's easy to change.
In post.
Very good. So, Roger, welcome. And thank you so much for coming. Why are you here? I'm going to ask you.
That's what happens. Your own fault. You talk about somebody, he might show up. It's a danger.
Nice.
Which we have to apologize again because we didn't specifically... we're so bad about naming the editors on this pod, which is so weird because the whole thing is paying tribute to the editing. And we even said it in that episode and then didn't say your name.
So Roger is the editor of Veep. And he listened to a couple of weeks ago, our episode about the breakdown of a specific scene. And then you were kind enough to send us an email and say, hey, if you want any of the inside knowledge, I'm happy to talk about it. So thank you.
You asked some questions as you were going through.
I did.
I know the answers to those questions.
I did. Before we get to those answers, I'd love to know a little bit about you. Like, what's your journey? I know you had a documentary early on in your career, and you're still kind of a documentary filmmaker on the side, but you're also working as the editor on Curb Your Enthusiasm and some other projects. So maybe just walk us through your journey up to this point.
Here's the Reader's Digest version of my career. I've been making films since I was 7 when I found my dad's 8mm camera, and I can't hire someone to edit, so I edit my own projects. And then when I got to high school, I graduated to Super 8, went to college, graduated to video, moved out to Los Angeles to seek my fortune as a filmmaker, and made some indie films and edited my own films. During that time, I would do film festivals, and one of my films was seen by a filmmaker named Mike Binder.
Oh, wow.
He saw a film called Suckers,
Okay.
which is a dramatic comedy about car salesmen, and he liked the editing style. Particularly, it stood out to him, and so he offered me a job editing a pilot that he was doing for an HBO series called The Mind of the Married Man.
Yeah.
That was my first pro gig, really editing for someone else. So before that, I was just doing my own work. Hadn't really intended or planned to become an editor for hire. And since then, the offers just have kept coming. It's the most consistent offers I get are in editing, although I do write, produce, and direct as well as edit.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly now I'm moving into documentaries primarily.
Yeah, and you're working on some cool ones.
All my documentaries are topics or ideas that intrigue me or I become obsessed with. So it's almost like therapy for me to go and take a camera, have a question. Like my prior documentary is called The Nature of Existence.
Mm-hmm.
And my core question was, why do we exist? So I set out to solve that mystery by finding people and interrogating them and making them explain why we're here, what's the point. And then I got all this footage, and so now it's a real editor's challenge to find a narrative thread and to coalesce all that into a 90-minute documentary, which is impossible. Existentialism? How do you make a documentary about existentialism?
In 90 minutes.
But that's what intrigued me, was the impossibility of it. And that's what I do, I guess, now. And my current film, which hasn't come out yet, it'll be coming out this year, it's called The Truth About Marriage. And my core question in that film, the mystery I'm solving, is why is it so hard for people to be married? So I once again set out with my cameras, went to psychologists and therapists and marital therapists, anthropologists, everyday people, various experts, and interrogated them all. And on the one hand, if I bring a camera and I sit down with a psychologist for 2 or 3 hours and ask that person these questions that are bothering me. By the end of the session, I've learned so much and feel so much better, and there's no charge because I brought a camera. It's free therapy.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I'm collecting all this footage and solving this question, this mystery.
And I take it you're married.
It's a single guy pontificating about marriage, which is also, I guess, is part of my theme. If I look back on the history of all my documentaries, I'm always an outsider looking in on a topic.
And was it you
analyzing
that pushed the Larry David character to become divorced? And
his story follows his actual life. So naturally people become divorced. 50%,
wow,
give or take, go down that path, and Larry was no exception to that statistic. And so the show followed his personal journey.
Before we get to Curb, I wanted to ask you, one of your early films was Trekkies.
My first documentary.
Your first documentary. Yeah. I have to say, I was at the premiere, actually, which was like a small theater in Hollywood,
wow,
if I
you're
remember
kidding.
correctly. And I was working as a journalist interviewing William Shatner that night. So how did you get into that? Were you also an outsider getting into the documentary there, or is this something that you were you part of that subculture?
I was an outsider.
Okay.
I'm not a Trekkie per se. I'm a science fiction fan. I'm a fan of great stories and great movies, well told. Mm-hmm. Sci-fi being one of the genre. I love that genre because my dad loved science fiction, so I'd watch movies with him. I'd watch Hitchcock movies with my mom, and then great old sci-fi movies with my dad, and that always stuck with me. As I grew up, I met Star Trek fans and thought they were amazing and hilarious, and they're so obsessive about what they do, and I thought this could make a documentary.
Yeah.
And actually, the credit goes to Denise Crosby. It was her idea to make a documentary about Star Trek fans. She pitched the idea to me.
Okay.
Because I'd cast her in my first feature, which is called High Strung, which is a comedy about a guy in a room complaining about everything, starring Steve Odekirk.
Right.
And she was in it.
And written by Steve Odekirk.
Yeah.
Who's a legendary comedy writer, Ace Ventura.
That's correct.
And did he do Bruce Almighty as well?
He did.
He wrote it. And
Patch Adams. Jimmy Neutron. So he's had quite a career since then. That was his second feature that he wrote. And my first feature, I read the script and said, hey, if I can raise the money, will you let me direct it? And I did. And he said yes, and we did. And so Denise, we cast as one of the characters, and I stayed friendly with Denise Crosby. And 2 or 3 years later, she said, I've been doing these Star Trek conventions. Someone should do a documentary about this. And I said, I can't believe no one's done it. Of course, it's so obvious.
Right.
So we did. And once you make a documentary, it's like, just what's the problem with one trying heroin once? There's no once. You get addicted to it. It's such an exciting journey to make a documentary.
Yeah. What is it about documentaries, like specifically maybe also in terms of editing them, that makes it so much fun, like as a storyteller? Because
it's a journey, and you don't know where you're going to end up. When you are filming or editing a narrative where the screenplay has been written, you already have the best version in your mind, and you try to achieve it by filming it, and you're trying to reach this goal. Whereas with a documentary, it's all fresh. Every interview the journey changes a little bit, and it's the whole time anything can happen. It's like, I love fishing. I go fishing every summer up in Canada, and it's like every cast, this could be the one, and you hook something. It's like a soundbite, got a soundbite, and it's exciting. And you reel it in, you get it in the net, and you got it on film or on tape, and it's about collecting moments and soundbites that you can then mold into something that's engaging for 90 minutes.
Yeah, and any of those catches could change the direction of it entirely.
And does. Yeah. Or areas, this isn't as exciting as I thought, or it's just not developing, or it's got to be intriguing enough to hold your attention for years.
Yeah. And how important is the editing in documentary compared to like narrative or script?
It's everything, because you're writing the script in the editing room. So I think a good editor, no matter what genre you're working in, you have to be a writer as well. I mean, it's an old saying that the editing is the last rewrite of the screenplay.
Right.
And so you have to come with ideas. A lot of editors, there's many paths you can follow to be an editor. And many of them, they apprentice, they learn how to use the equipment in school, they apprentice, and they move up. And I've worked with them, and I'll say to my assistant, hey, have you seen Gone with the Wind? No, what's that? It's like, how can you be an editor and not have seen the greatest movie? You should be devouring them during all your off time, because there's a limitless supply of 4-star movies in the history, and you need to see all of them or devour as many as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, Quentin Tarantino is a filmmaker who devours everything, and what he regurgitates in his own style is unique, but it's because he's absorbed the language of filmmaking. And so an editor, especially, maybe more so than anyone aside from the writer, and maybe the director sometimes, although that's questionable, has to be a filmmaker, a storyteller who can fix the script. You have to have ideas, and you have to understand structure. And I've had book editors tell me that what they do, it's almost exactly the same as an editor. You're trying to condense everything to the most concise version, because brevity, right? Good writing is concise writing, and good editing is concise editing. You want to get there in the shortest trip possible. And whether it's Veep or Curb Your Enthusiasm or The League, part of what I do is identify the setup and then the punchline, and then I eliminate everything between those two to get you to the punchline as quickly as possible. Because particularly in Veep and Curb, they'll do tangents. And the tangents, as funny as they may be, will diminish the landing of the punchline. So I'm cleaning out all that word baggage and the pauses and the diversions, and making sure the setup is clear and it's as close to the punchline as possible. And good writing is the same.
And these tangents on those shows, are those tangents in the writing, or are they more just because of the nature of the improvisation?
Both. Sometimes they'll write things, it's overwritten. These shows are way overwritten. And so I'm throwing stuff out all the time, getting rid of things. It takes a discipline to not overwrite. It's easier to overwrite and then worry about it in the editing room than it is to get disciplined in the writing stage.
How long is the script?
They're 50 or 60 pages for a half-hour show.
Yeah.
So and first cuts are 45 minutes to 55 minutes.
Is that in sitcom formatting where it's like double-spaced for everything, or is that traditional formatting?
Traditional formatting.
Oh, wow. So is that part of the process to overwrite it like that, in embracing the editing process?
It's a lack of discipline.
Oh, so you think...
Comedians have no discipline.
Right.
Otherwise, they have a regular job.
Right.
If you can go tell jokes on a stage for 20 minutes a night, and the rest of the 23 hours you have to yourself, that's a pretty easy job. You got to come up with funny stuff, of course, and they're brilliant at that. But having discipline is not something that writers are known for.
I guess that's a great point, but it makes me curious. So some of the writers the comedians you're working with, like Larry David, Dave Mandel, right? Both obviously worked on Seinfeld. And I would think with that, and Mike Binder's a comedian too, but I would think that requires a little more discipline for networks. I would wonder like where they lost that. Like it just doesn't seem like Seinfeld, like editing is where things would happen, because you're taping in front of a live audience. And so do you think they just abandoned, like once the network was gone, they were like, woohoo, or...
Well, they're sort of all like 5-year-olds. They never quite grow up.
Okay.
And a 5-year-old with constraints will stay within the constraints. But if you slowly remove the constraints, that 5-year-old's going to get into everything.
Okay.
And the constraints have been removed over time because of peak television. There's so many shows, a lot of which now no longer have the 23-minute requirement, 23.5 minute, 22 minute, 24, whatever, depending on the show, where they've got to hit their commercial breaks and they've got to fit, the acts have to be a certain length.
Right.
Once you start to remove those things, their playtime it's like someone's income will, expenditures will rise to meet their income.
Yeah.
Their writing rises to meet the volume available. And so the episodes of Curb Your Enthusiasm are coming in over 30 minutes and 30 and 40 minutes.
Right. Yeah, especially this last season.
Yeah.
And how much, if you know, how much time do they have? Are they in a time crunch when they write these scripts? Or is there plenty of time to figure it all out in the writing, and then they go off shooting? Or is it like, we just got to get this done and then we'll figure it out later?
It varies. With Curb Your Enthusiasm, Larry takes a year.
Okay.
He takes as much time as he needs. And HBO says, you're welcome, thank you. And, whatever, just deliver episodes when you're ready.
Yeah.
partly depends on when you start the production, because what they end up doing is having to finish in time for Emmy Award consideration, and then they back time from that. So in order to deliver episodes in time to get to the critics, you've got to be shooting by here and delivering by here. And then that forces a schedule onto the creative element, which these 5-year-olds who want to play everywhere.
Right.
But they also want awards. So to get the awards, they've got to play within the rules.
Nice.
Yeah.
And with Veep, we've been in crazy schedules to meet our deadlines.
It seems like very much more tightly run scheduling wise, that show, than obviously Curb's like the outlier. Which kind of brings me to my question about your take on it as an editor, having worked on like the best of the best comedy being made. Do you think, sort of like you're talking about fishing for ideas in a documentary, obviously that's going to make it better, like the more fish you cast for. Do you think that process in some way makes the end result better, that they're embracing like that editing will be used? Or do you think it's like, just dial it in, do what you guys did on Seinfeld, please? It makes it easier for everyone. Like, which do you think ends up with a better result?
Each ends up with a great result. And they're both great results. With one, you get different results. Seinfeld had a stringent format and had a certain type of network result. The type of moments you get on Curb Your Enthusiasm, you really couldn't get any other way. You have to let them go play in the sandbox and see what happens.
Does Apatow fit that mold when you're working on Crashing, or what's the take on that show?
Depends on how scripted, and Crashing was scripted, and Veep is scripted, but what they do is a lot of alt lines.
Gotcha.
While they're shooting, they'll try, maybe this is funnier, or that's funnier, and so you get all sorts of attempts at funnier punchlines that you can't think up sitting in a room the way you can when you're shooting and you're in the environment and you're forced to come up with stuff, and you're forced to focus. It's really forcing them to focus. Deadlines are great for creativity.
Right, and seeing what Jonah looks like on set.
Yeah, and the actors bring things. They'll bring something, and the location brings something. On Curb, from take 1 to take 7, where they finish, it's usually vastly different.
Right.
Because Larry, with whomever he's working, will find the funny. They'll find what's funny about that situation. And finally arrive there, and once they arrive there, they know they can move on because it works. There's an ending, or whatever the nugget is. The seed has finally bloomed.
Right.
Sitcom stands for situation comedy, and all that they do is come up with funny situations, and then put two people in them to have conflict in this situation, two funny people, and then out of it comes this wealth of material. Then I, as the editor, get to sort through and pick what makes me laugh, and then present it to Larry David and Jeff Schaffer
right.
this season. Typically, what Larry's a little different. What he wants to do is he'll watch all the dailies with you, spend a week going through all the dailies after looking at your editor's cut, and say, try getting this in and that, and maybe I'll switch this joke in, and he'll give you a bunch of things that he liked that you'll note going through the transcripts. So then you try and jam as much of that into an even fatter cut.
Gotcha.
And the rest of the time is spent getting it down to time or a final cut.
Right.
And the editing happens here in Los Angeles?
Yes.
Okay. And so what does the schedule look like for Curb Your Enthusiasm? I would assume it's very different from Veep in terms of it's just very stretched out, is that? It's
pretty stretched out because that's the process that Larry David uses.
Okay.
It suits him. He's the vision.
Yeah.
So everything follows his process. Jeff Schaffer on The League, for instance,
who also started with Dave Mandel on
Seinfeld,
which is obviously Larry David and Seinfeld show.
He's a little more energetic in terms of moving quickly, and he'll work all weekends. He'll work 7 days a week. Larry's going to work 5 days a week. Jeff would work 7 days a week, and often does. He'll have, like on The League, the editors would stagger their weeks. So there's always somebody working on a Saturday or a Sunday. So when Jeff comes in, he's got someone to work with. He never stops working.
Wow.
And then on Curb this season, how many editors are?
Two.
2 editors.
Yeah,
Wow.
there'd be 3 actually, because I'm replacing someone who's leaving.
Okay.
My time on Veep overlapped, and so I started on Veep and someone else started on Curb, but he has to leave to go work on something else, the second editor. Steve Rash, who's been there since the beginning, will have been there for the whole run.
Okay.
And you came in season 7?
Did 3 seasons, so 6, 7, and 8. I did, yes.
Wow.
And how many episodes the latest season?
10 episodes per season.
So one editor will have 5, and then you'll be splitting the other 5 with the editor that you're replacing?
Yes.
Okay. And then how does that work? Like, when do you start with the first episode? Do you completely finish it before you move on? What's that schedule like?
Yes, it's about 3 weeks to a month per episode.
Okay.
Finishing a cut and then presenting that to Larry and Jeff. And then they'll get to it in sequence as well.
Okay.
And maybe they're working on 1 and 2 kind of simultaneously and hopping back and forth, and then they'll work on 3 and 4 and move back and forth and give notes.
But now that show, is it... Because I know usually with network shows, they're kind of rolling out and the showrunner is writing episode 10 while editing episode 2. Is that the case with Curb, or do they have more luxury where it's shot, it's done, and now we're just focusing on the editing? Or Veep as well?
Veep, they're writing while shooting.
Okay.
And taking hiatus weeks during the shooting schedule to continue writing.
Wow.
But on Curb Your Enthusiasm, they have written all 10 before they start, normally. Larry will start... At some point, Larry will get bored not working or doing what he's doing. He'll decide, okay, it's time to start doing another season.
Yeah.
So he'll start writing, and recently he's been writing with Jeff Schaefer.
Very cool.
One season he wrote with Jerry Seinfeld. It was the Seinfeld reunion season.
Oh, okay, so he was on that whole season.
And Jeff Schaefer and Alec Berg and Dave Mandel were 3 partners who all were co-writers and producers who worked on those seasons.
Yeah, and Berg's now doing Silicon Valley and Barry as well at the same time.
Yeah. So
what does that script look like? Is it a treatment or is it an actual?
It's a treatment.
Okay.
So they'll start writing. Larry will start writing with whomever, and once he gets 5 or 6 of them written, then he'll call HBO. The HBO won't even be involved. He'll call them up and say, "I guess I'll do another season," and they go, "Thank you," and then he'll finish the 10, and their outlines with maybe a paragraph or 2 or 3 lines per scene, which sets up the situation. Larry,
no dialogue ever.
There might be some dialogue suggestions in that paragraph.
Okay.
And sometimes they use them and sometimes they don't. I've seen them where they didn't use anything that was suggested. They went in a different direction once they got there.
Yeah.
But the situation stays.
Right.
You can't improvise story. You can only improvise dialogue.
And allegedly bad improvising is creating story.
Yeah, and you'll see the mistakes in the shows that tried to do the Curb style where they didn't quite get that. They didn't realize that. So Larry spends a long time working on the story with Jeff Schaefer, and the same with the League. Jeff Schaefer was writing story before shooting. And sometimes it's just coming up with, Larry decides he wants an ice cream cone, and there's somebody in front of him taking too many samples. And so the question is, how many is too many samples before it's socially wrong? And then our guy, Jeff likes to call Larry our guy.
Right.
Our guy now, who's kind of the social crusader, has to fight for us and stand up for, that's too many samples. Right. So the situation is set, and now with a funny comedic improviser, they go at it. And they cast people based on who will argue with Larry, who will give it back to him.
Right.
Okay, so then they shoot that scene. You said they go like 9 times or however many times.
Maybe as few as 3, maybe as many as 11, but let's say 5, 6, 7 times.
And
till they get it. Till they
how many
feel
cameras?
it.
So the last
2 to 3.
Okay.
2 to 3 cameras. So the last one is probably pretty different from the first one.
Yes.
How do you deal with that in the editing? Do you just cut the last one? Do you still mix and match? How does that work?
And if you notice a trend that suddenly reveals, like, I'm just going straight to 4. Like,
oh, yeah.
you know,
I have a process now. I'm going to have to put this in my book. I start at the end, and I'll take the last take because they probably arrived at something, and I will cut a version of the scene with that take. It's funny you picked the first scene in this last season of Veep to talk about, because I taught a class recently and used that same scene
cool.
to dissect for the students how to edit a scene. And I told them the same thing. I showed them 5 versions of the scene. I said, here's my first cut. It's only with the last take.
Huh.
And there's 4 cameras to choose from there on that show. And so it's plenty of coverage. I could basically cut a working version of the scene from the last take. Now, after that's done, that's maybe a series of closer setups or a series of wider setups, depending which last take, because there's usually 2 main passes where they'll do a pass with wider coverage and then a pass with closer coverage and then a final pass with super wide coverage. Where normally with typical coverage, they shoot the master, the super wide, and then go in for tighter coverage.
Yeah.
And Dave Mandel developed a process where he saves his master for the end because we found we couldn't use it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because it was the early take with nothing good. There's nothing good in it.
Yeah.
And so he wanted more wide shots because there's more comedy in a wide shot because you can see more body language.
Oh, okay.
So I would take the last best multi-camera shot, cut a version of the scene, then start working my way backwards, looking for ways to beat what I've got. Since I already know what I've got, if something doesn't beat it, I won't waste my time cutting it in. If I use the first take to do this, I'd be replacing everything and spend far more time than necessary putting a scene together.
And then in terms of the first cut, how long it is and how long the final scene is it like half the length or?
Well, my first cut, I like to give them a kitchen sink cut.
Yeah.
Jeff Schaffer particularly likes to see everything, and Dave Mandel likes to see everything.
Include them in the process.
I don't want to cut jokes or story points before they see it.
Okay.
My goal is to make, here's everything they shot in the best version of a scene with everything. Then they'll cut it down. And so my first cut of the scene you looked at, for instance, the first scene of this last season of Veep, is probably 6 minutes long. And then by the time Dave Mandel gets done with it, it was half that length, I think. He cut out half of it. And a lot of which I knew was going to go away.
Yeah.
But he needs to see it. He needs to do it.
Yeah. Which means that first cut they see is probably not working all that well.
Not nearly as well as it could, yes.
And which can be quite scary for the editor to show something that you know it's going to be better, but you feel like you can't fix it yet. You have to include them in the process.
Yeah, typically everybody, when I worked on Grey's Anatomy, you couldn't cut anything out.
Yeah.
Don't cut a word out of the script. And in fact, if an actor uses a word different from what's scripted, use the take where they use the scripted word.
Okay.
They want the actors to just recreate the words they've written.
Right.
And so my job was to make the cut as close to the script as possible, and so they can see it.
What do you prefer as an editor?
If I'm my own showrunner or if I'm the director, then I'm going to cut it the best version possible. But even that's going to be too fat.
Yeah.
Everything is too long. Whenever someone asks me, hey, will you look at a cut of my film? I say, great, it's too long. You haven't seen it yet. Yeah, I know, but I can tell you right now, it's too long. It's always too long. You've left in all these things that you shouldn't have.
Yeah.
That are maybe are great, but they're harming the overall impact.
And I was kind of curious. I mean, I guess to me it's kind of obvious as a fan, which is probably more rewarding. But as an editor working for someone else, do you prefer where it's like, all right, we're sticking to script, or I'm going to figure this out? There is no script.
Life is so much easier when the script is well written, and you don't have to fix the mistakes.
Right.
It's just you go home earlier,
Right.
and less frustrated.
So you probably find yourself in a situation where you're always like blessed with the script and the performances, and that makes your life a lot easier.
Well, the performances on Veep, for instance, the cast is A+.
Yeah.
So everybody's stellar, and all their takes are generally great.
Yeah.
Nobody's giving you a bad take.
Right.
From any of these actors. But there are some shows or movies I've worked on where, there's always one, you got to build a performance out of someone. I mean, there was one actor in a movie I did with Mike Binder called Black or White.
Oh, yeah.
Kevin Costner.
Right, Costner, yeah.
There's an actor in there, and I had to build a performance. The dailies were all over the place. But the result is amazing because the pieces were there.
Right.
And a lot of good work came from that.
Yeah.
Showpiece. But if they had seen the dailies, they would have next.
Right.
Yeah, let's explain this term build a performance, because I think that's one of those powerful invisible tools that an editor has that usually you don't get credit for after the fact. But if you could elaborate on what that means.
Let me give you an example. When I was working on The Mind of the Married Man, there was one actor who I became friends with. His name is Doug Williams, and he's actually in my marriage documentary.
Okay.
And he was doing this thing that was costing him screen time. So I invited him into the editing room. I said, Doug, let me show you something. So he came in, and I showed him one of his performances.
Mm-hmm.
And what was happening was he was putting in these long pauses. Because he was getting dramatic, and actors, when they get dramatic, they pause.
Right.
Lots of pauses. Just hammy, long, dramatic pauses. And I said, every time you do that, I have to cut away from your face in order to get rid of the pause. So you want more screen time, and I want to give you more screen time. So pull out the pauses. Get through the sentence without stopping. And then I can stay on you. I'll stay on your face without having to go to a reaction of somebody else. And it was like he had no idea. Actors have no idea. They'll look at something, they'll look at a final product and go, wow, I'm pretty good. Having no idea how many pauses and ums and you knows and mispronunciations.
Right.
I mean, everyone has pet peeves, right? One of my pet peeves is mispronouncing words like asterisk. If an actor says asterisk, I just want to pull my hair out. No, it's asterisk.
That's what it was.
Well, you would drive me crazy.
I won't say
Good
it.
to know.
But I'll go and fix it. I'll find a sk sound and replace a x sound and make them grammatically correct.
Yeah.
Which is another invisible thing, is that editors can cheat. They can put words in that they didn't speak in
All
that
the
tape.
time. I don't know, what do you call it? I call it line stuffing.
Lines. Okay.
Frankenbites.
Yeah, Frankenbite, that's a good one.
So, but I think in this there's a really good lesson to actors and just for people listening, that shoot your own stuff and edit your own stuff, because you learn so much
You'll be able
about
to become
yourself
a
as
much
an
better actor if you do that.
Yeah, and that's a very different thing than having to look at Video Village, which could get you in your head or something like that. But actually, just for the maybe you might find out you like editing. Like, go shoot something and cut it together, and I promise you'll get better at whatever you want to do.
You can use your iPhone now as a camera.
Yeah.
With sound, and everybody's got an editing system
in the same phone. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
There's no reason not to.
That's a unique situation where you get to talk to the actor and show him it in the editing room. That usually doesn't happen, so that's very fortunate. Before we get into the Veep thing, because I want to look at that scene that we discussed and see if we got it right or not. Maybe we'll just finish off on Curb, because that's where we were. So you said 5 weeks to present your cut, and then
between 3, 4, give or take. However long, they've gotten longer, so it's taken longer. But
okay.
Yes.
And then they spend another 2 weeks on it, and then it goes to HBO, or how does that work?
About a week for Larry to look through all the dailies.
Okay.
And then a week or so doing a cut down. Eventually they'll get to producer's cut number 1.
Okay.
Which will go to the network. There's no notes from the network to Larry David. Nobody gives Larry David notes.
Yeah.
He's beyond that.
Have they ever tried, or this just went away once the show?
It went away at some point.
Okay.
Well, does Curb have directors on the episodes?
Yes.
So at what point does David step into that process?
Some directors come in and they'll do a director's cut. And some don't show up at all.
Is it a union show?
Yes.
Okay, so there would be a director's.
They have the option.
Yeah, they're getting paid for it.
But it's Larry's show, and
right.
They know that, and their time is valuable, and they don't waste their time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
by going in and wasting their time on something. On Veep, the same thing. Some directors will come in, some will send in handwritten, or will just type up some notes, and some didn't bother at all.
But which isn't uncommon just in television in general. Like the showrunner has all the power, the writer.
Yeah.
But Jeff Schaffer does direct a lot of Curb episodes. Or am I imagining that? Yeah. So it's the writing team does a lot of that. So
yeah, and it's changed because they're using multiple cameras now. Mm-hmm. The DP becomes in charge of coverage to an extent that he didn't used to be.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so the director can focus on the lines and the actors and the story, whereas in the past, they had to focus on coverage.
So wait, you just said something I forget, the show's been on for 15 years maybe at this point. You said they're using multiple cameras now. So when Curb started, were they doing single cameras?
It was called single camera, and they still call it single camera.
Right.
And they had, I'm not sure because I wasn't there for the first seasons, but when I started on season 6, they had 2 cameras. Occasionally they'd add a third.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can't get by without 3 and sometimes 4, and that's the norm
Right.
on most shows
Yeah.
that you'd call, quote, single camera.
Right.
But 20 years ago, 10 years ago, single camera was one camera.
And it was film at the start. Now is it digital for Curb, or was
Curb
it
started out as beta.
Okay, so it was. Yeah, that's right. It never was film.
And it didn't go to digital beta until I think season 7.
Wow.
Did they give it a film look, or it just looked
No.
like video at the beginning?
I think it looked kind of like beta.
Yeah,
Okay.
it definitely. Yeah, but thinking back to like the tent, I was like, oh, yeah, no, that was not film,
Interesting.
which was part of the fun of it. Created the freedom.
It was a super low budget first season.
Yeah.
And that's one reason they got a pickup, is because the budget was so low. Nobody had any expectations for this thing. It was just kind of an experiment. I mean, it seems so normal now because it's pervasive. The Curb Your Enthusiasm style of filmmaking
Yeah.
and making TV shows. But when they started, no one was doing it yet. They essentially invented this
Right.
process, often imitated but rarely equaled.
Yeah, if equaled only by the people that came up in the Larry David system, which has been amazing in and of itself, and that you're kind of the connecting tissue editing so much of this stuff.
Well, I want to finish up Curb. So you said it goes to HBO the first time. How many times?
Formality, yeah.
How many times does it go to them? Just that one time, or a couple
Probably
times?
once.
Okay.
I mean, I'll keep track. I'll keep my eye on it
Okay.
and let you know how.
Well, I worked
the
on
season
shows
10
where there were like 7 network cuts, where
Oh,
it just
yeah, that
kept
won't happen.
going.
Does that
Back
happen
to
on
the-
other shows?
I mean, Veep, it goes to network once,
Okay.
and they'll get notes back. Minimal. They got minimal notes. The same cut would go to Julia, Frank Rich, and HBO all at the same time. Dave's cut, when Dave would finalize his cut.
Yeah.
They would all get it at the same time, and all their notes would come back, and we'd do them all on the same day.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then what about Grey's Anatomy?
When I worked on Grey's, was their 14th season, and they kind of know what they're doing by season 10, I think. So again, it's kind of a formality, but yeah, we would have a screening for the network executive in charge of the show. She would watch it, and we'd watch it with her. And after the screening was over, she would offer her thoughts. And primarily, they were about the music. She really took a hand in, I like that music, try something else here. That's what she had a connection to more than anything else. I think rarely were there story notes.
Mm-hmm. And that can be alarming sometimes when actors get to give notes. But I think that's, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, that's probably a situation where it's great and they're helpful, or maybe not.
It is, well, if they know what they're doing, if they have a good instinct, and Julia does.
Right.
So I never really found any of her notes to be like, oh, that's crazy. You
Right.
know?
And usually, how many notes would you get? Would it be 10 notes?
Well, it's a day's worth,
Okay.
so yeah, probably Dave would come in with his handwritten sheets. He's talked to them on the phone
Yeah.
where they gave their notes, and he's written them down on pieces of envelopes, and he'd turn them over, and there's some more here, and we'd address them and check them off. Or if it couldn't be done, we didn't do it.
Yeah.
Or if we decided that what was there played better in context compared to the request, and then he would explain, we tried it but couldn't do it for this, that, or the other reason.
So you don't necessarily have to deal with conflicting notes in that situation, which might be problematic.
Dave had final cut, Dave Mandel on Veep.
Hmm.
So he decided in a conflict which note would happen. And everybody went with that because he brings the awards.
Right.
So if you bring the awards, they'll let you do what you want. If you don't bring any awards or viewers, you better bring one or the other.
Yeah.
Or both, ideally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we take a look at the scene? I mean, we don't have to look at it, but let's.
Wouldn't hurt to refresh our memories.
Okay, good. Well, I have it here on my laptop, so we can take a look at it, actually. That scene, one more time, maybe just a little setup. Do you remember what the scene is about?
Well, it has to set up the whole season. The whole gang is back together, and she's on her way to announce her candidacy in Iowa.
Nice. So it's basically 2 different locations. She's inside the jet, and there's Dan and
Amy.
Yes. And so there are a bunch of bystanders waiting for her to arrive at this particular airport in Iowa. Let's take a look. And yeah, just tell us, like, Just a little insight on how did you arrive at this scene?
Commentary track. Live commentary track.
Incredible. New Selena. Oh, it's perfect.
So you got to start with a wide shot, right? And then we'll go for coverage. This was in a really confined space. It was a very difficult scene to edit, which is one reason I teach editing with this scene. And it was one of the first things shot, so the actors were not on their game.
Gotcha.
Everyone was a little rusty. So the takes were really hard to work with. It was a bigger challenge than
Amy,
normal.
are you there?
We're all ready for you, ma'am. Hey, sweatpants. You can't just
A lot
walk
of
out.
alt lines here. You can't leave because this isn't a spin class.
Right.
You know, they tried lots of different jokes there, but the Terrence Malick joke
Yeah,
made me laugh, and I'm glad that made it to the final cut.
So you're the one. That's great. We love that.
Yeah. So we got multiple storylines that we're setting up.
We talked plenty, Amy.
No, not you, ma'am.
It's a little difficult to imagine that Selena can't hear her because the phone is so close to her mouth, and that's one of the buys you have to make in this scene.
But I love that Selena just doesn't listen anyways. Like, it just kind of fits.
That's, I think, why we get away with it.
Yeah. I almost thought it was intentional.
Where I say I want to be president for all Americans.
This is a new character, Leon, introduced as part of the team.
How about real
Took Mike's
Americans?
job last season, right?
He was on Curb in the chat and cut
That's right.
scene.
Okay, I don't know what she's saying, so here.
Ma'am, the voters...
This was the way it was scripted, by the way. We didn't steal
Okay.
a joke, a punchline, and move it, which we do often, though.
Yeah.
We do that technique.
Gotcha.
But it was scripted that she just ignores Amy.
Oh, that's great.
There was a lot of improv here at the end of that scene that got cut out
Hello.
because it just went on. It was too much.
And this is a different plane.
Now this airplane that is all added. Like this is all almost green screen.
Huh.
Okay.
Widened. The shot was widened digitally, and that barn was added. It was
Wow.
Burbank. It was Burbank Air or something, or Van Nuys Airport.
In Cedar Falls, Iowa. Ma'am, we're in Cedar Rapids.
Oh, because they filmed in L.A. this season.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
No, Selena.
I forgot.
There was a whole improv here too, where Gary goes and retrieves the phone. It's the fifth one this week, and that got trimmed, of course.
And what's his performance like working with in general? Because it's almost like a ninja. This is in the background, sneaking things in.
You mean Tony Hale?
Yeah.
He is so good at what he does. It's phenomenal. When we had the rap party, he's the one person I sought out to get a picture with out of everybody because he's so amazing. And every take is useful or funny or...
I noticed in a lot of shots, there's a reaction shot that he gives, or like a reaction in the background. Is that something, like specifically in this scene, he gives like for a microsecond, he's pissed off because the other guy is saying, "Mommy is speaking."
That was scripted, that he gives a reaction there.
Okay.
And so I actually missed that on my first cut, and the director said, no, you're missing a reaction there. So we went oh yeah, he is doing something.
Interesting.
Right.
So we held for
Wow.
Is a lot of times, is that given in the script that his reactions are...
it. They often write Gary reacts, and then he does his thing, which
Yeah.
is unexpected and funny.
Right.
Very interesting.
So
Then
unique.
one of the other things we said is that in terms of the comedy, it felt to me like it's cutting it shorter than the traditional setup, punchline, tag, and then beat for a laugh.
Yeah, there's no breathing. The characters don't breathe.
So that is
On
something
Veep.
that it is different from traditional comedy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Nice.
There's no waiting for the audience. You gotta keep up
Yeah.
on a show like this.
More of like the bringing up baby model.
Yeah,
That
40s screwball comedies
Yeah, on meth.
are closer format than traditional sitcoms, where a lot of sitcoms are designed for people while they're doing the laundry or having a beer after work, and the kids are running around, and they leave laugh room, and the laugh track is there to remind people this is a funny part,
Yeah.
and in case they miss a story point, they'll drop it in twice.
Mm-hmm.
There's none of that here.
Right.
We will cut out anything that's repetitious.
Yeah.
The attempt is to never use the same word twice in a scene, much less the same joke in the whole season. If he's done a riff on a joke before, we did that in season 5.
Right.
We did a joke about that. If it's not substantially different or funny, typically those are marked for cutting.
Yeah. And is that a style that evolved, or that was like clear from the get-go that that's the style of the show?
Well, we all looked at Armando's style,
Right, that's what I was going to ask, the transition from him to Mandel and if the writing has changed.
and there are things that have changed from Armando's style. I know that one of the things that they did was it was shot like a fake documentary. So the cameras, when they did a pan, which they call swingles, a swinging single, you couldn't pan before the line and anticipate the line. They had to say the line and then you pan to it.
Gotcha.
Otherwise, it wouldn't feel appropriate for a documentary. But that kind of got dropped as time went by. When it became more important, the priority was, is that the funniest version of a line? If it is, technique or visual look gets sacrificed.
Gotcha.
For comedy. As Dave Mandel said at the rap party, something to the effect that I'm a damaged human being. All I care about is it fucking funny? And that is what he lives for, is how can this be funnier?
Right. And he had obviously a whole writer's room, Mandel did. Did Armando have that? Or is it more the British style of just he was writing all the episodes?
Not having been there, I can't tell you for sure.
Gotcha.
All I know is what happened here. And I think the joke quotient, jokes per minute, went up in Dave's tenure because it was more of a writer's room and squeezing as many jokes in as possible, which is a Curb thing.
Yeah.
That's what we do on Curb Your Enthusiasm, as many jokes as possible. And so that's one reason all the pauses, every frame you pull out makes room for another joke. If you get enough frames out, there's room for one more punchline.
Wow. I've always been fascinated with the joke telling and with the writing with Veep because I've heard conflicting things. There's a written script and then there's like an improvisational rehearsal thing that then informs that script and it gets locked into a final thing, or how does that work in terms of the improv versus what's there? And
it's a living document, so it's continually changing, and after the read-through they'll change it because they'll get a lot of information or performances or ideas from the actors, and then on set writers are there watching every take and suggesting lines.
Gotcha.
And Dave is the decider of what goes into the actors. When there's a scene with Jonah or somebody, Jonah particularly, but when somebody's going to be insulted and they know that's coming up the next day, Dave's assignment to all the writers is come in tomorrow with 10 insults for Jonah. 10 new insults.
Right.
So then he's got a basket of 150 insults, however many, and then he narrows it down to his favorites.
Right.
And that's what goes.
Do the actors ever offer up ideas, or they're just...
Yes, but how do you compete with the greatest writers?
Right.
They're not. The actors are not writers. It's just not their strength. But occasionally, they come up with things better than anyone would have. So it happens.
And where does that happen? Is it on set? Is it in read-through? Is there a rehearsal process?
There's not a lot of rehearsal. I think they do a read-through of the script. The episode where the actors had the most improv and the most input was an episode I cut that was called Kissing Your Sister.
Okay.
And the conceit was that Catherine was shooting a documentary throughout the season. And then episode 9 was her documentary. So we get to see what the result was of Catherine filming, interviewing everybody.
Yeah.
And so in those cases, it was all the actors pretty much fully improv an interview.
Right.
With them.
And it was the most new boundaries of atrociousness for the show, and Catherine would be there and no one would care. Like even then
right.
It was indifferent. Like, Catherine, you're so annoying. It's like she just caught you, committing treason. Like, what? How could you not care? And then it's a documentary, so who's going to watch it?
There was so much footage on that episode. It was the longest cut of any episode. I think the first cut was like 72 minutes.
Wow.
And ultimately we cut it down, but it could have been as long as you wanted. But all of it was almost pure tangents.
Right.
It was very little story in that episode.
Yeah.
I want to get to this point where we're at the airport. And I felt like by design, the scene was cut in a way that we were close on her, or close on him, actually, close on Dan and wide on her. Is that something that just happened because the performances were right in those takes? Or was that a decision visually to create that scene?
Partly it's random chance where they decide to cover the scene from, and they'll cover it so that they get the most production value.
Yeah.
You see, they paid for a lot of extras and a marching band and trucks, and they don't always have time to do a big turnaround So they'll pick one direction, and that's where the wides are. And you get them, in this case, they happen to be facing out toward the airport, because what's different is we have a whole airport here. It's a real airport, so we better see the airport. And that's why you have the wide this direction and the tighter shot on Dan. So my goal is to ultimately have the scene be as elegant as possible. And so I'm not cutting between wide and close constantly. So sometimes it's wide, 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 then close, 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 wide, wide, as opposed to wide, close, 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 wide, wide, close, where there's no elegance to it. But the elegance is secondary to where is the funniest and the best. And I'm a little different, I've been told by my assistants, in the way I approach things from the sound. I listen to the sound, and I cut a scene to just the best dialogue first. Then I'll look at the video, the visual, and try to make it flow elegantly. And because there's 4 cameras, I can just flip between angles.
Oh, very smart.
And then pick, let's say, wider here, and now it's time, because she's confiding in him, or especially when they start talking about abortion, it doesn't make sense to stay wide the whole time, because it's an intimate thing that they wouldn't want the whole world, the press, to hear about. So dramatically it makes sense to be tighter, obviously. But as always, as Dave's preference, Dave Mandel, is stay wide as much as you can, because it's funnier. You can see what the actors are doing, and drama is in the face, so you get tighter on the faces for the dramatic moments.
Okay, interesting. You said earlier the comedy is in the wide. Now you're saying the drama is in the face. So maybe that's a little takeaway in terms of how maybe people can be aware when they're cutting scenes.
Yeah, if you want to be funny, stay wide. But if someone's crying, get up close, and you'll get much more emotional impact, empathizing with the facial expressions that you won't pick up in the wide.
Yeah, and then just because there's emotion doesn't mean it's drama, right? It could be a very funny emotional outburst, which would fit maybe more with Curb, whereas Veep, especially this last season, I mean, there's real deep cutting drama, right? Balanced with the comedy, which was pretty amazing and must have been interesting to handle.
That's the best. The best comedy is when it's a really serious scene. And I try to keep things grounded, as serious as possible. I think the comedy gets funnier when it's real, when the characters are connected to reality. So I'll cut out jokes that are too broad. I'm always cutting out the things that are too broad. And sometimes Jeff Schaefer will make me put them back in, because he really is attached to a really funny joke, and he'll sacrifice for a joke to get that great joke. But I think the jokes are funnier the more serious the scene is.
Interesting. So even on the funniest shows being made ever, you're sacrificing comedy for the drama, because that ultimately helps the comedy.
My favorite example is Jaws. It's a really serious movie with hilarious moments.
Right.
And the moments are that much funnier by how serious and suspenseful the movie is. You're going to need a bigger boat.
Yeah, right.
Probably one of the most famous lines in history.
Yeah.
Right? He's very upset and freaked out and serious, but it's hilarious.
Right. That whole thing of comedy, it's like if you're stating the obvious.
It's just it's a good line. It's a great line that becomes so much funnier because the scene is so connected to reality.
Right.
Because we don't see the fakey fish that much.
I want to take it one more cut in Veep right here. And it's something that I feel like is, like, as an experienced editor, it's something that becomes less and less important. But it's something that, like,
continuity,
beginning editors really obsess about. And it's that moment where, what's his name, Gary, right?
Yes.
Is looking at the poster in the white with Selena, and then we're cutting to this shot right here.
Yeah.
And in terms of the continuity, his body is completely different. His emotion is completely different. Maybe talk a little bit about how that is for you as an editor. How do you arrive at a cut like this, where it's just you're just feeling it, basically?
Part of what happens is that Dave Mandel wants to cut lines, and so he asks me, cut those 3 lines, or that one line. Now I've got to get from point A to point D without a jump that's going to bother him, and the continuity is not going to bother Dave Mandel or the audience. So I have to find a way to bridge that by cutting with motion and on the line, or pre-lapping a little bit, or post-lapping, or I have to find the sweet spot in any particular cut so it doesn't bump you, even if the continuity is kind of wrong, so that we can flow through it. Or in this case, what helps is the pacing, so we can rocket past it too fast for you to really for it to register
Mm-hmm.
on you. Hopefully, maybe the line will be funny enough. And as you see, when we cut to this close up of Gary, he's starting a movement,
Yeah.
which overpowers the lack of continuity from the prior shot.
Yeah. So you're kind of throwing the edit at that point.
Yeah.
And that's something really powerful. And as you become more experienced as an editor, you like it just is very natural how you arrive at these edits.
I try not to jump the line. I try to follow the rules. But in a scene like this, or at a conference table, in this confined space, they're all sitting down. We know where everybody is. We're not confused if we jump the line once we set the geography.
Right. Which you said, the very first thing you said when we started watching this scene was, start with the wide, right?
Here's where everybody is. Now we go in for the best performances. If it's confusing, if you're going to confuse the audience and that confusion is going to harm the comedy, then you got to stick with continuity.
So it seems like the most important things for comedy are clarity and drama.
Clarity is huge, but violating those rules are part of your toolbox. I remember in a movie called The Killer, John Woo's film, he would jump cut these two characters. When they're sitting on a log, one was a policeman and one was the killer. And they're talking after this shootout where they kind of were forced into teaming up with each other. They're opposites, yet they're the same. So he wanted to show they're basically different sides of the same thing. So he crossed the line, so they're both looking to the left on each shot in a matched cut. They're positioned the same way. And it was John Woo's way of saying, look, they're the same person by jumping the line and just seeing how similar they are.
Yeah. We noticed music in Veep, there's basically none. It's transitional, and then boom, these hard, fast-hitting scenes. And yet in Curb, almost uniquely for situational comedy, I know there's a few scenes where you use music that really just makes the scene that much funnier by almost... because it's that very classical tone that's then being pushed for great drama, like, just making like a dramatic moment funny by how over the top the music is. And the example I'm thinking of is one of the first episodes you cut for Curb. Never mind. It was like the second season you worked on, the Denise wheelchair episode, where he gets his BlackBerry thrown in the ocean, and then it kind of is zooming in on Jeff's wife who just threw it in.
Susie Essman.
Yeah. And you just had this really intensely dramatic, like, where does that happen? Are you suggesting that stuff, or at what point the music passes it? Because the whole joke's almost the music in that. It is supporting it, but... Well,
at first you have to learn the style of the show and work within that palette. But even before that, I think a scene has to work without music.
Right.
You can't use... If you need music to make the scene work, you've failed.
Yeah. I meant more the moment than the scene, but yeah.
In the case of Curb, it's part of the show to the style of music, and it's all library music.
Right.
There's no composer. It's these songs that have just become archetypal songs for the series,
right.
And there's just here's the whole suitcase full of the usual cues. Which one are you going to season this shot or this scene with?
Yeah.
And they all work. You put in 5 different different songs. They'll all kind of make it funnier. Make it more absurd.
Yeah, I just think music's used so well on that show, and it's such basic music.
Well, partly it's because the show started as such a low-budget show. They didn't have money for a composer, and they started with library music. And now that library is so identified with Curb, no one else can use it.
Yeah, I see it every once in a while in the library. I'm like, what? This sounds very familiar.
Yeah, you can't use it unless you're doing a Curb reference now.
Yeah.
I wanted to maybe spend that last part of this podcast to talk a little bit about aspiring editors and what would you give them as advice to arrive at being able to cut shows on HBO? What should they do now to get to that point?
Make their own movies. Become a good writer. Study literature. I mean, you got to know how to push the buttons, know the software, but I'm at the mercy of my assistant. I know so little about the software and don't care about the latest version of Black Magic or After Effects. I just have I have my assistant track the TV screens and effects shots. My job is to pick the creative moment, the best creative takes. I get hired because I pick the right takes. That's the main reason, and I've got to hit at least 80%. I think if I hit less than 80% of the right takes, I'm not doing my job, and they're not going home early enough.
Yeah.
They don't want to have to replace all my choices.
Gotcha.
So partly it's you got to have the right twisted sense of humor to begin with, and there's no either you're born with it or you're not.
Right.
If you don't have your sensibility has to match the show.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's comedy or drama, you're going to want to work on shows that match what you would do anyway, what you're good at, what you like to watch, and people gravitate toward what they like to watch. And I've noticed that comedy is the thread amongst all my work that's similar, and I've gravitated to comedy.
A different showrunner may very well like different takes, but you're also just in sync with these people, which is helpful.
Yeah, they're going to swap out takes for sure. They're going to come in and change some takes, but there is an objectively better performance in any scene. And if you're good at what you do, you know when it's a good performance. A good editor feels it. You feel it, and you build a scene with the best performances. Now, partly it's knowing go to the last take and work backwards, see where they arrived, and then I'm building the performances underneath, replacing syllables, improving enunciation. I do a fine mix of the audio before I send out an editor's cut. I've seen editor's cuts with bumps and clunks and audio pops and digital pops, mismatched levels. That's amateur hour, in my opinion. I do a perfect, like a full mix, because I think people perceive a scene or an episode, either it's working or it's not, and they'll feel like it's not working if you didn't polish it.
Mm-hmm.
The more I polish it, the less work they think they have to do, and the more they accept my choices. So part of it is don't half-ass anything. Never present anything that isn't fully finished, even in a rough cut.
Yeah.
Because people, they cannot imagine what's missing.
Yeah, I always feel like either it's so rough that it's obvious, or it has to be like, it could be in a screening room right now.
Agreed.
If you have something in the middle, it always feels like the finished product, but people are bumping on every little thing. And they give you notes on things that aren't even problems at that point.
So there's that. Then, when you are preparing a scene to show to somebody, if you are on a reaction shot of someone's face and there's a pause, an or a you are an amateur. There's no excuse when you're on a reaction shot to have a pause in there of any kind or a mispronounced word, because you can fix that. You can pull all that out because you're covering it with a cutaway. And part of pacing, right? Part of pacing is getting rid of all the non-story stuff, the baggage, the word. When actors are struggling for their lines, the pauses are mostly actors trying to remember their lines. And so you get rid of it all. Looking at their mark. There are all these things that the actors do that we get rid of. These tics that they have. Or lip smacks. Get rid of all the lip smacks. A lot of actors, before they speak, it's like an announcement. I'm about to speak. You don't need to announce it.
It happens on this podcast. I gracefully cut it out for the listeners. It sounds like this.
It's a nervous
Are you
tick.
referring to me? Oh.
No, I'm the biggest.
Well, you're aware, and so you know how to. Editing is fixing your mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Getting rid of your mistakes. So that's technique. But if I was if I was interested in becoming an editor, I would say become a filmmaker.
Okay.
Make your own short films. I can't afford it. Well, make a 1-minute film. You have to make your own films. You've got to do everything. Write, act, edit, do the sound. So you learn storytelling and read literature. The one thing I wish I had done more of in college was take literature classes, read more classic literature, and study storytelling, particularly story structure. Read all the books on story structure. Story by Robert McKee and Save the Cat. They're all great. They're all good. It's good knowledge, but you need to understand 3-act structure, the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell. You have to know why audiences want their stories told to them a certain way. Formula is not a bad thing. It just is a description of what is. And that's what is. If you give an audience a story told to them in a way that they don't want their stories told to them, they'll turn it off, or it's an art film. And that's, European films are refreshing sometimes because they're violating that rule, and it's kind of nice to violate that rule sometimes. But if you're watching a movie and the inciting incident doesn't come until 15 minutes in, you've lost people. A lot of the best movies and TV shows, there's a dead body in the first scene.
Mm-hmm.
It's start right into it.
Mm-hmm.
Start your story. So learn storytelling, no matter what job you take in filmmaking, and particularly editing, because editing is writing and it's rewriting.
Great. Well, Roger, thank you so much for coming over here. And we'll do a new episode when Curb comes out, and we'll do an analysis of
Happy
a
to
scene.
drop by anytime.
Feel free to not, but by all means, we would love to have you back. And
I
then
want
we'll
to come visit your bunny rabbits. He's got bunny rabbits here.
That's right, and
That
chickens.
was an unexpected bonus.
Yeah.
Maybe by then I'll have finished my new documentary, so we could talk about marriage.
Well,
Absolutely.
also,
Love
you've
to.
worked with like the gold standard of comedy. So Larry David, Judd Apatow, Schaefer, Mandel, Mike Binder, and Odenkirk. And then, of course, the ironic one we didn't even mention was Sacha Baron Cohen for Who is America, which is like we could talk about that. That I'm very curious to know in terms of what you're talking about, documentary and falsity, but maybe we'll save it for another go.
Great.
Fair enough.
All right, thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome.
To the listeners, thank you so much for checking in. Come back next week when we have a new episode for you. If you like this podcast, don't forget to subscribe.
Thank you to Curter for the music.
And as Tyler always makes me
Cheers.
say, and I'm going to make Tyler say it now.
Happy editing? Or why don't we have Roger say it?
Very good. Let's do that.
Happy editing.
There's no sane zone, so put your head between the speakers. There's no sane zone, so put your head between the speakers.
Cool. Awesome.
We'll figure out how this podcast works someday.